We were able to show through cross-examination that the defendant driver was not truthful. The defendant driver had actually swore out an affidavit which was completely inconsistent with his deposition testimony and ultimately his trial testimony. I'm Kristian Krober and I'm an associate at Block with Toole & Murphy. So we represented a man who was Canadian, and he was a long-haul trucker who would bring basic goods, cosmetics, toiletry products, things like that, from Canada to, in this particular case, Long Island, and then back. Blue-collar man, middle class, hard worker, family man. He had 2 children, he had a wife, and like I said, he lived in Canada. As he was driving home from Long Island, he was in Westchester County, and he was involved in an accident where another tractor trailer jackknifed in front of him. The case came to our firm through another attorney. The client had a very, very bad knee injury. He had a fractured kneecap that required surgery almost immediately. He had instability in the joint. The knee is the largest joint in the human body, and sometimes his knee would give way, causing him to fall. And so the case went to trial. We were in Queens County. We were able to show through cross-examination that the defendant driver was not truthful. The defendant driver had actually swore out an affidavit which was completely inconsistent with his deposition testimony and ultimately his trial testimony, to the point where there were between 5 and 10 significant inconsistencies that completely destroyed the defendant's credibility. We also brought in a police officer who had gone to the scene of the accident, who testified that the defendant truck should not have been in the lane that the defendant truck was in at the time of the accident. And we showed pictures that we got on Google Earth and from the accident scene that actually had signage that said this defendant should not have been in that lane. He was still 5 years after the accident feeling pain. And it was very, very powerful evidence that we set forth to the jury, which included all of the things that he couldn't do anymore with his children, including teaching his children how to ice skate. And in the summer months, they like to play soccer. He couldn't rely on his knee to run or hold him up or kick a ball. And these were just basic things that he relied his knee upon that had been taken away by the defendant's negligence. And all of these injuries, at this point, we had already determined that the defendants were negligent and that their negligence was a proximate cause of the accident. And we knew that he wasn't walking around with a fractured kneecap before the impact with the other tractor trailer. So every single damage that this plaintiff suffered was as a result of the defendant's negligence. And we made sure the jury understood that. And we were able to settle the case for a very, very large number. The client was over the moon and thrilled that we were able to recover an award for him. During one of the physical therapy appointments that our client had, he had mentioned to his physical therapist that his knee gave out while he was getting into his truck. It was a man who had tried to go back to work. He was a long-haul trucker. He tried to go back to work, and as he's getting into his truck just to do his job, his knee gives way. His knee, coincidentally, it was his left knee, his knee that was injured. It was no coincidence, of course, because the instability was caused by the defendant's negligence, which caused the broken kneecap in his left knee, which caused all of the injuries, including the instability that he had. That one piece of evidence corroborated our claim. You might go through thousands of pages of evidence and find one reference to something that you're trying to show the jury that exemplifies instability. And we were able to find that. We were able to highlight that for the jury, and it was in evidence for the jury, and it was something that we were able to sort of blow up onto a screen and show them. And although we did not get to the damages summation, if we had gone to the summation, I would have explained to the jury, this is objective evidence that shows how unstable his knee is. And so it's very, very powerful evidence that an attorney has to look through everything, has to be meticulous, has to comb through all of the records for those little nuggets of evidence that could completely corroborate you, can corroborate your client, and ultimately will get your client 100% justice.